India and the United States have been linked by a historical umbilical. Columbus, who stumbled across the New World on board the Santa Maria in the 15th century, was looking for India, hence Red Indians and the West Indies. When Washington threw off the yoke of the British, the general he beat, Lord Cornwallis, was sent to be Governor General in India. He's buried in Bihar. In fact, the Boston Tea Party revolt began because of Indian tea dumped in the Boston harbor. Even the founders of Yale College made their millions in Madras. Today, we are linked together by Indian curry, the H-1B visa, the 3 million Indian origin Americans, and more than 1 lakh students who study in the US every year. But their friends and families back home, many of you watching this tonight, maybe you travel to the US, maybe you know someone studying there, maybe you're hoping on the H-1B lottery, maybe you have family there, are genuinely wondering what Trump's America means for us and our loved ones. It's a concern come to life after a woman whose life inspired Shah Rukh Khan's Swades was stopped outside her house by cops because her neighbors denounced her as a probable illegal immigrant. She's been a US citizen for 30 years. Trump has announced that not all non-Americans, that includes green card holders, students, rest of us tourists, do not come anymore under privacy laws. So what can India do about it? Should we hope that the likes of Google CEO Sundar Pichai and their ilk, the best brains and entrepreneurs from India, come back home and make this the new land of the free and home of the brave? Or should we as a nation and government stand up to Trump's America? And if so, how? Listen to this story, then we'll ask that question.
I just signed 2 executive orders that will save thousands of lives, millions of jobs, and billions of dollars.
A president who's vowed to make his country out of bounds to outsiders. A woman who's the pride of the Indian community in America and also the inspiration behind the cult film Swades. This is the reality of Donald Trump's America, where a woman can be hauled up and interrogated by cops as an outsider just for being brown.
When he asked my name, I asked why I was being questioned, and he said that someone had called the police. Walking while brown, I asked. He said, no, nothing like that. Someone might have been concerned that I was lost.
They were trying to figure out why there was some hesitation to provide identification. That's why they asked, that's why he asked if she was illegal. That's an education for me that's helped me out to see that, hey, not only do I have to get my officers trained, I have to get the dispatchers trained on how to react to some kind of situation like that.
The local cops have already washed their hands of Aravinda's case, which happened even before Trump took charge. Experts warn that India can no longer afford to be a spectator in Trump's xenophobic war.
It's a shame, it's a disgrace on the America's democratic credentials and track record.
The manner in which he has begun, it shows that he is trying to assert himself, no matter whether he is right or wrong.
He has started taking his position forward, moving aggressively towards more and more right wing.
This is only one of a number of executive orders or a number of policies Mr. Trump is signing or is intending to sign. The ban on 6 nations, according to the Trump government itself, could be extended to other countries as well.
Some ignorant American who is fed on this fact that every brown skin or dark skin or bearded chap is a terrorist. He probably thought that she was a suspicious person. So I don't think we should take it too seriously.
Aravinda's horror, which
is a terrorist. He probably thought that she was a suspicious person. So I don't think we should take it too seriously.
Aravinda's horror, which isn't even the first time in recent years when an Indian was targeted for his race in the United States, serves as a timely warning for the NRI community. As a result, has India now become once again the land of hope? Bureau Report, NewsX.
So is that the silver lining? Has India become the land of the new hope, if I can put it that way? Joining us on the broadcast, Sudesh Verma, representing the BJP, CRK Swan from the Congress. They both stay on with us. Harish Bijur, joining us from Chandigarh tonight. Vivek Karju, former MEA Secretary, is with us. And Professor Sumit Ganguly. He is a professor of political science at the Indiana University. He joins us via Skype. Let me begin with you, Professor Ganguly. You're no fan of Trump, sir. And we know that you feared that these kind of things could happen, or at least be amplified by his victory. You are part of that 3 million strong Indian American community, sir. You've been a part of all the back channels in the past 20 years in developing ties between our countries. Are you worried? Okay, we can't get an audio. I wish my production team had done the audio check with him. Okay, we can hear you, sir. Go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Origin. So I genuinely fret about the future of this vibrant community that has contributed so much to American life. And when an executive order is issued of this nature, it has an extremely chilling effect, because there is no dearth of a racist streak in this country which will now come to the fore. It will justify all manner of outrageous behavior, and consequently I am extremely concerned about the recent turn of events and the harassment of this woman in Maryland.
Okay, Professor Sumit Ganguly, as a people in India, as the Indian American community, as the Indian government, which was one of the first, well, at least Narendra Modi was one of the first 5 people Donald Trump called, is there anything we can do about it?
Well, this is something that should be raised in diplomatic channels. One should not engage in grandstanding, because one cannot win a grandstanding battle with Mr. Trump. His command of social media is so consummate that it is almost pointless to engage in a shouting match with him, which he invariably will win. On the other hand, quietly but firmly, this is a matter that should be raised in diplomatic channels, and a concern should be registered about the future of Indian students in this country who are particularly vulnerable. I am less vulnerable because I have a certain standing in the community I live in. I am a naturalized American citizen, and consequently I enjoy certain privileges. Whereas there's a much more vulnerable population, particularly those Indians who are on temporary visas and who are international students in this country.
Okay. Harish Bijur, there is a genuine problem. Other than the practical concern, and I'm sure you have friends, you travel yourself to the US, you have people living there who travel, who fear what happens at airports, who fear just walking down the street and being picked up by cops, let alone be bullied by quote-unquote racist elements within the American society. But there's a practical argument here. H-1B visas is a very practical concern for the software industry. Not being able to get Indian workers there is a very practical concern for families who spend millions in education, hoping that they'll get the H-1B lottery. There is 3 million Indian Americans who send billions of dollars in funds back home, sir. These are very practical considerations for India as a country and a government, sir.
Absolutely. If you really look at it, all of us knew this was coming, particularly after Trump's win. And all of America knew this was coming after Trump's win. But the contradiction is that, you know, the land of immigrants is questioning immigrants. Now, if you really look at all this happening, I think there's going to be turmoil for a period of time. The best way to approach it, I do believe, is talking to the business sense of Donald Trump. Let's not forget that Donald Trump is a business mind. He's a corporate man, and he understands business. If Trump understands at a point of time that this is bad for the business of America, I think Trump is going to wake up and say, hey, listen, I need to take a middle path. There's one key point I want to put out here, and that is simply this. You know, today, as we look at the situation, this is a worldwide trend, whether it be in the case of Brexit or in the United States of America, or I don't know where else. Right is right, left is wrong, and being centrist doesn't win you votes. So what do people do?
Yes.
They go on the side of the right. At times, that decimates business.
There's a second fundamental question in this, of course, whether this presents as an opportunity for a brain gain in India. But before that, Vivek Karju, in the reality of the world, if we are so pleased with the fact that Trump, was one of his first phone calls was to New Delhi. In the reality of the world, should we just say, look, there's nothing we can do about it. We can just beat our chest and that's about it. We have to wait until the Americans think otherwise. Or can we practically actually address the concerns if the safety of our citizens or of our larger diaspora is of preeminent interest to us?
No, we have to distinguish between Indian origin people in America who are US citizens and between NRIs or those who are in America who are Indian citizens. Our first responsibility is obviously to Indian citizens, Indian nationals, and if there is any mistreatment of Indian nationals in America or anywhere else in the world, then it is the bounden duty of the government of India to intervene in that process, to ensure that Indians are safe and secure. Now, as far as the larger argument is concerned about what is happening in America, I do believe that there is a reaction in America itself, as we've seen over the last 24 hours, when an American judge has intervened in the executive order that was issued by ensuring that some people who are at airports in America are not sent back. So I do believe that within America there will be some kind of an attempt at some corrective action to restrain Mr. Trump, and perhaps in time Mr. Trump himself will realize that while it's all right to pander to his own constituency, yet American interests demand a certain middle path to be adopted, and I do think that the pendulum will swing. When it swings,
we don't know.
Question whether it will take weeks or months or perhaps more months, but it will swing.
Eventually, fingers crossed. Let me get in Sudesh Verma. Sudesh Verma, and let me rehash the point I was trying to make. We have an important relationship with the United States. Donald Trump, like him or not, has some semblance of awareness of that, which is why he made the phone calls and made the signals that he has. Whether that be to counter China or to tap India's market, best known to him and his team. But we are trying to forge a strategic partnership with the United States when Indian people, Indian job seekers, Indian students might be being shut out from the same country. What's our answer? Do we have one?
You see, when Donald Trump got victorious in the presidential race, he understood divided America and he spoke about reconciliation. The isolated case, whether it's an isolated case of racial profiling or it is a part of the design, we'll come to know. And we expect that, you can expect that if that happens, naturally Indian government will take it up at whatever level the diplomacy allows. But we expect Trump to continue the fight against terrorism, for which we are looking up to the US to act as per what it promised. That terrorism is a big issue. It is an ideological issue for India, and that needs to be fought. And we expect that America will cooperate with India and help resolve some of the pending issues all across the world. And of course, you see, nobody can support racial profiling of any sort. And if it hurts our interest, naturally the Indian government will take it up at the best possible forum.
Okay, CR case one, and I don't want to heavily politicize this back home, but I want your opinion on this. Is it reasonable from a self-interested government of India looking after its own interests, CR case one, is it reasonable for us to be considering that, all right, there's going to be some problem with H-1B visas, the IT sector might take a bit of a hit, but on the larger cause of a strategic partnership of countering China, of anti-terror, as Sudesh Verma says, it's worth it. It's worth sacrificing some of the people who are not going to get their visas or some of the students who might get sent back home. Is that a reasonable argument?
See, that's an argument. I want to raise 2 points, Rishabh, an important point. Harish made a pertinent point and said you should appeal to the business instinct of Trump. See, what is very conspicuous, Rishabh? He said the 7 instinct of Trump. See, what is very conspicuous, Rishabh? He said the 7 Muslim countries are being banned because he has to fight Islamic radicalism. But see his approach to Indonesia, Turkey and United Arab Emirates. No ban. To Pakistan, he made a phone call and said they're doing terrific. Osama bin Laden was found in Pakistan. Hafiz Saeed, US has a bounty on Hafiz Saeed. It is very clear, unfortunately, I don't want to make it personal, but Mr. Trump has business interest in all these countries. So wherever he has business interested, be it Muslims or Islamic radicalism, he's conveniently looking away. And for us, it's a huge problem because our geopolitical interests, strategic interests lie in their relationship with Pakistan. If he's going to turn a blind eye towards the terrorism emanating from Pakistan, that is something we strongly have to consider. The Indian government has to take cognizance of it, because this selective profiling of countries is very, very dangerous. Second point, I will come back to what you were saying. See, America, the pilgrims, for religious tolerance was a big issue in England. In the 1600s, the pilgrims went to America because they wanted freedom, and it was found as a land of immigrants. And now, today, the way the President of America tweets, it's scary. He tweets probably on a Mac or an Apple. Steve Jobs' father was called Abdul Fattah Jandali. He was an immigrant from Syria, where people have been indefinitely banned. And look at the way, they're taking this xenophobia. I don't know where it's going, but I want to make one point, Rishabh. Theodore Roosevelt in 1910 said, America will not progress if you have hyphenated Americanism. The problem with America, which India has to take up, is hyphenated Americanism, be it segregating and profiling, be it Indian American, Asian American, Black American, or Muslim American. That doesn't bode well, and I think India should take a strong stand in terms of balancing.
Several people want to come in. Let me just quickly go, Master Kardju, first to Professor Ganguly before I come to you, sir. Professor Ganguly, let me flip the conversation around. Is there an argument to be made that given what's happening and what is likely to happen, at least in the prospective future, that India thereby becomes an attractive opportunity for some of its best brains, its best entrepreneurial spirit to come back?
That India thereby becomes an attractive opportunity for some of its best brains, its best entrepreneurial spirit to come back. Well, some already have, and they started to do that long before Trump was even on the horizon, let alone having assumed the presidency, largely because of new opportunities that have opened up in India in the last 2 decades. As the economy has opened up, as entrepreneurship in India is increasingly rewarded, I think a significant number of individuals have already gone back. But it would be tragic, and it would actually be tragic for the United States, if any number of extremely talented Indians who have made significant contributions, both economic and otherwise, to American society, suddenly felt unwelcome. Because I would like to remind the President of the United States that even his grandfather was an immigrant. This is a land of immigrants. Barring Native Americans, every one of us who lives in this country is an immigrant. So this hostility towards the immigrants that this administration is displaying is quintessentially anti-American.
Okay, it's never been. It's been an unbroachable subject given our third world status, Ambassador Kardju. But can we start thinking like that? That perhaps India is the land of hope and opportunity now, especially for the best brains that left us some time back?
Look, I do not believe that any significant numbers of Indians, or for that matter, immigrants in America from any other country would return to their home countries. I don't believe that, because I think the attachment, the material attachment to America, the kind of comfort they have, etc., is much too much for us to hope that, yes, a few may come, but I don't think that we should bank on that. But there's a more important thing. After all, at the end of the day, the process that we are seeing in America, which is a country which is divided and split down the middle, is quintessentially an American process. It is a process in which the Americans have to reconcile themselves as to the path they adopt. The world can contribute very little to this process, and it will be futile
to even try
to think that an Indian intervention, or for that matter, or a European intervention, will somehow change Mr. Trump's mind.
Yeah,
if
because
anything will change Mr. Trump's
he's won
mind,
an election.
It is the American population itself.
With a,
no one else can.
With
exactly.
a minority population.
But
I'm out of time.
That he doesn't have the majority.
I'm out of time. Harish Biju, leave us
that
with,
is right.
leave us
so
with
that is the thing that will work.
With
I just want to
if you can with a hope. Okay, CR Keswan, why don't you come in, then I'll leave the last word with Harish Biju. Mr. Keswan, quickly.
Okay. I'll tell you what. If you really look at it, I mean, let me respond to that question of yours. India is certainly the land of
just hang on. I want to leave.
And possibly
American news editor
end-to-end
commented.
services.
Yeah, CR Keswan, finish your thought.
Can I just? I think you know somebody a famous American editor quoted this. He said, "Forget about building the wall, Mr. Trump. Keep a mirror to yourself and see what America has become."
Quotable
I think
quote.
that's the resounding message.
Quotable quote. Harish Biju, last word with you.
Last
word with you, Harish Biju. Give us some hope.
Well, my last word is it. There's a great Indian dream that, you know, Indians from all over the diaspora will return to India and make this land that much more prosperous. I don't think that's going to happen because India is still a services-led economy. We are not about products. Look at IT. We are still about services. We are not about products. Look at the United States of America, or look at the Indian diaspora in the United States of America, the old immigrants out there. They are about products. So until the economy morphs in India, I don't think that's going to happen. So that dream is going to remain a pipe dream for a period of time. So one last point, I think jobs are at stake out here. Because, you know, Indian IT itself, automation is killing jobs at one end, and Donald Trump is killing jobs at another. So Indian IT, I think we have a big problem out here.
So it's a real and present problem. Whether you want to travel to the United States, you have friends and family there, you're studying there, have somebody in the family studying there, there's a real and present practical problem, there's an economic problem. I don't think we found the answers just yet. But if you're hoping, as Harish Biju, Vivek Karju and Sumit Ganguly seem to suggest, that the best and brightest will come back to India because of Donald Trump, perhaps not just yet. The economic consequences of that will be earth-changing and quote-unquote, no pun intended. Thank you, gentlemen, for having this conversation at least on an Indian broadcaster. That's a wrap on The Nation at 9. Thank you. Good night.